Okay, well, here's one that can be abused. Demiplane. 8th level Conjuration, casting time of 1 action, range of 60 feet, components somatic, duration 1 hour. You create a shadowy door on a flat solid surface that you can see within range. The door is large enough to allow medium creatures to pass through unhindered. When opened, the door leads to a demiplane that appears to be an empty room 30 feet in each dimension made of wood or stone. When the spell ends, the door disappears and any creature or objects inside the demiplane remain trapped there, as the door also disappears from the other side. Each time you cast a spell, you create a new demiplane or have the shadowy door connect to a demiplane you created with the previous casting of this spell. Additionally, if you know the nature and contents of demiplane created by casting the spell by another creature, you can have the shadowy door connect to its demiplane instead. So, okay. There's a good deal of questions with this, namely resulting around what you could do with the demiplane or the realm itself, and the fact that you just create new ones on the fly? With simply the casting of an 8th level spell, creating a permanent pocket, Magnificent Mansion can't even reach up to that. To be fair, it's 1 level before this, and not that habitable. Also, it remains open for 1 hour. You don't get to close it earlier. So actually keeping something there for that hour might be a little difficult, if it's a living thing that's trying to go against you. But if you want anything, okay. This is the bag of holding for a living creature's monstrosities, effects, and floods. That's quite the list, and it's even longer. Things can't really live in there for too long, namely because it doesn't have any time-preserving properties or allowing you to be fed. It's not imprisonment. You're just putting them in your own separate bag of holding somewhere, essentially. You also have to ask the question because you can connect to ones previously made by others. There's no really protection, so if someone knows another wizard has had a demiplane that is housing something, any other spellcaster that has Demiplane can easily reach it. So, actually using it for safety and storage, as long as you keep the contents of it a secret, you're good. If you don't, it's worthless. The sole security is based upon other people who can cast the spell, which, to be fair, it's an 8th level spell, might be a bit difficult, but then also keeping the contents a secret. So keeping someone trapped in there, maybe not the best. If someone knows that you're hiding them and you're notorious for keeping things trapped in here, they don't even need to know a number, they just need to know its contents. Or 1 part. Oh, does that mean 1 part of its contents? Like, let's say you put that prisoner and then like a bunch of stolen grain, weapons, or whatever. Do they only need to know 1 thing in there? Or do they need to know everything? Don't worry. The vague wording is only going to go in a downward spiral from here. Flat surface limits it a little bit. You can't just appear this in midair. You have to put it somewhere, but the floor is also a hard flat surface most of the time, or in some general dungeons. And it's a nice place to push people in. I mean, hey, you're also going to get 3d6 falling damage from that. Though, you can get pretty wacky. There's a few different features, or a few different, I guess, Pokeballs. That's one feature of this. Just trapping something that doesn't really need to eat or breathe, aka undead, demons, some other conjured creatures. If they can't immediately go back to their realm, depends the setting. Undead though, a lot of the animate dead spells, you lose control over them after 24 hours. Well, you set this up, always facing the ground floor, they're gonna fall into it, and you just have your animated and still under thrall undead walk right in. Doesn't matter if you lose control of them in there. Just always make sure the door is always going to be opened on the ground so things fall in versus being able to come out easily. I think D&D shorts called this the White Explosion or something? Or Zombie Apocalypse in a bottle? I don't remember. But you could theoretically just, have a undead army or horde, or in the situation of the Whites with Create Undead, they can make their own zombies. So you just pack a 30-foot by 30-foot cube with as many undead bodies as possible of Whites. If you can get other undead, all the better, or demons, or any other creature that doesn't need to eat or breathe, just pack it. Just pack it. Then you open the door, and presto! It's not really your problem anymore. Don't have to worry about animating them, never had to stack it, and it's not just 1 demiplane that you can pack things with. You could have several of these realms just filled with Whites. Just a backlog of minions or monsters that you can just drop on. This isn't even just in a player's hands. A villain with this? Like, oh, the adventuring party has caught up with me. Well, just a single snap, Demiplane opens, a horde of Whites comes flushing through. I mean, it's similar to a villain summoning something in an action, or other enemies or reinforcements busting down the door and managing to rush into their aid. This, you could just do it with an 8th level spell. Also, Demiplane only allows you to go into Demiplanes. Though there is also a terrifying implication of its wording. You see, when you create or cast the Demiplane spell, it only opens to another Demiplane. Do you see the issue there? Once you're inside, unless you have plane shift, you can only travel or make other Demiplanes. If you're alone and don't have plane shift or some way out, you're dead. Well, also depends whether DM interprets it that you can cast plane shift to Demiplanes versus just the prime planes and the elemental and that list. It's a real thing to think about. But someone who's truly paranoid, like if I was to see a wizard who's truly paranoid, they would even risk just having a secret keep it. They'd probably build an entire dungeon or place it in another already existing plane, then a dungeon around it, to keep something trapped or secure, not just risk it in the Demiplane. Another caster just happening to learn their secrets in a world where divination exists, remind you, Demiplane's actually not that secure. Again, the only real limitation is other people able to cast a spell. Because once you can cast a spell, there are plenty of other resources that can aid you in figuring out what is in one of those realms. And then you can travel to it. Easy as that. There's also another question. Are these permanent? Is this willy-nilly? Are there thousands upon thousands of empty or abandoned or demiplanes filled with treasures, creatures, magic items, corpses of previous mages from centuries past, and it's just waiting for people to figure out what's in them to open them? I mean, don't let me stop you, that's a great plot for a campaign or a great mechanic for a system or setting. That's not how I run it. I run it that the moment the mage who initially made it dies, or when the last mage that would cast a demiplane to that location dies, that demiplane stops functioning, or it's empty. Then it's gone. I read it as the object itself and the person casting it are the two things that's keeping it in existence, or else it just dissipates into where all those other pocket planes go. But, like that previous statement earlier, you could definitely rule it that they still exist long after. Bits of treasure just waiting to be found, instead of a dungeon traveling to, the entire dungeon is keeping a secret of what's actually in there. The treasure of this once great archmage, Varumth the Third or something. What did Varumth the Third? Had hidden away all his treasures in separate realms, but no one knows the exact contents of these treasures. Some mages attempt to just guess at random legends to figure out what did he place there. But it's reported that he marked secrets because he knew his madness would take him and he would not remember everything. An itinerary, a logbook, various bits of scrollwork and plaques left around in all his previous habitations, towers, and locations, leaving riddles as to what's inside them. There you go, there's your plot hook. Though, heading back to the actual mechanics, 30 foot by 30 foot, decent chunk of size. Also, outside of creatures, treasures, and people kept in there to die and starve alone, and wizards that have trapped themselves within that realm, you could just fill it with water or other hazardous substances. Poisonous gas, poisonous atmosphere, air itself, rocks. Magma, potentially, though that would probably cool, if you ask me. I'd say that's now a block of obsidian. But one of my players has decided to fill an entire set of demiplanes with just fill a demiplane with just water. 30 foot by 30 foot cube of seawater. Just so we can pull a Mario Sunshine and open it up at one point. Though for the rating of this spell, even though it's a bit of a quirk that anyone can access it, the way a secret's the only thing protecting it, as we listed, the amount of opportunities that you can use this for and the flexibility of having your own pocket dimension, essentially. Even though it's 8th level, it's still not 9th level. You still get it a little earlier. Not concentration, it's a range of 60 feet, it's only an action to cast. 9 out of 10. If it wasn't the secret thing, if it wasn't anyone could access it, this would be likely a 10 out of 10, probably. But 9 out of 10. It's a good spell.